Effectively, I suppose I'm here representing the voice of the consumer. As a market research agency, we're out there every day talking to consumers about where they shop, what they buy, where they travel, where they choose to go on holidays, the banks they like to use, the mobile phone companies they like to use. And I suppose what that allows us to do is to build up a bank of knowledge about what motivates them, about their fears, about basically fundamentally what makes them buy and what turns them off buying. So what I'm going to share with you today is our learnings from that and some insights into some key consumer trends. What I'm just going to start off with, though, I suppose, is a lot of us read about these sort of consumer sentiment indices, sometimes which are a little bit complex. I'm going to share with you, I suppose, taking the pulse of the consumer a little bit more simply. If we were to ask the question, how happy are we as a nation? We're part of an international group of companies, and as a group, we conducted a poll in December of last year. This was carried out in 58 countries, a total of 53,000 respondents. And the question we asked was, do you personally feel happy, unhappy, or neither happy nor unhappy about your life? And the results shown there are for Ireland. And what we see there, we've got 45% say, I'm happy, 25% feeling a bit glum or unhappy, 30% sitting on the fence. And we calculate a net happiness score, happy minus unhappy, of 20%. Like a lot of research findings, it's only really relevant in context. So how do we compare internationally? And unfortunately, the picture is not terribly positive. Shown over on the right-hand side of the chart there, you'll see we come right down the bottom. Globally, net happiness is about 40%. In Western Europe, it's as high as 56%. And you'll see lots of countries there coming in well ahead of the Irish in terms of net happiness. We're right down there at the bottom. And I suppose, ultimately, we're the least happy in Europe and only half as happy as the global average. Perhaps it doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand the reasons why. I suppose there's been lots of things driving this unhappiness, given the size of the fall which we've had since the Celtic Tiger years. We've had pay cuts, pension levy, the universal social charge. We've got lots of us in negative equity, less disposable income, rising unemployment, job losses, bank bailouts, emigration, lack of job security. That's all been accompanied by rising costs in electricity, gas, petrol, public transport, education, health insurance, and lots of indices which are not for the faint-hearted. Consumer spending is down, new mortgages are down, credit cards are down, car sales are down, consumer confidence is down. Thankfully, this room is filled with starry-eyed optimists who are not going to get completely depressed by looking at all of those figures. But what does all of this mean? Basically, it means that all of this actually has to have a big impact on the consumer. We can't expect consumers to think and feel and behave in the same way against this kind of a backdrop. So, taking all of that into account, what I've identified are 6 key consumer trends which I think are evident in 2012 and which will carry on beyond this year. And they are frugality, simplicity, transparency, a community focus, service with a smile, and digital dependence. And I'll just talk you through each of those. Frugality, it's got many faces. I suppose the most obvious of it, probably practiced to a degree by everybody in this room and by some of our customers, is that of thrifting. We know from lots of industry statistics that people are less inclined to buy brands, more inclined to buy private label. Less of them are driving, and they're walking or cycling. They're turning down or off their central heating. They're bringing in a packed lunch instead of going out for lunch. They're going for a walk in the park rather than renewing their health club subscription. They're much less likely to go out, more likely to stay in. We've seen the likes of Aldi and Lidl, the discounter stores, perform phenomenally well throughout the recession. Deal seeking. The Irish have always loved a deal, but rather than being an occasional pleasure, bargain hunting, I think, has now become a way of life. Anybody here dealing directly with customers know the kind of bargain hunting and deal seeking that's actually going on. The likes of Groupon and Living Social are testament to our passion for and desire for getting a good bargain and a deal nowadays. Wastage and the sort of desire to minimize wastage is further evidence of frugality. I think nowadays people are really reappraising all of their expenditure, whether it's how much fresh food and veg they buy to make sure they're not ending up throwing some of it out, whether it's looking at the mobile phone plan that they're on to make sure they're not paying for something that they don't want or need, or whether it's reassessing all of the insurance that they have. Do I really need all of it? And also people are doing more research. Rashness is being replaced by caution. People are talking to friends and family, they're looking online. And I suppose the sentiments that accompany all this, some recent research we did shows kind of two sides of the coin. On the one hand, we have some people saying, it makes me feel more efficient, more in control, less wasteful. But that's accompanied on the other side by somebody expressing the view, I sometimes get a kick out of cutting back and thrive under pressure, but sometimes I'm sick of always being so financially restricted. So for some people, all of this frugality and thrifting is just becoming very difficult. So I think this frugality is becoming deeply ingrained and is likely to be sustained post-recession. So I suppose the key question to you as small businesses is, how can you add value to customers to make them feel like they are spending wisely? Simplicity. A little quote here from the Harvard Business Review. Downturns are stressful and typically increase people's desire for simplicity. Even prior to this recession, many consumers were feeling overwhelmed by the profusion of choices and 24/7 connectivity, and we're starting to simplify. The example I love, and maybe it's because I'm a fan, is Apple. I'm sure we've got a few iPhone and iPad users in the room. I think it's the ultimate expression of simplicity. Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple, recently said, every single product Apple makes could fit onto a single conference table. We say no to good ideas every day. And I think that's a very brave business decision. The tendency is to constantly look to launch more products, more line extensions. Apple have taken the reverse route and have managed to ride out the recession reasonably well. Another couple of examples, UPC, who've had a lot of success in recent years. It's one price, it's one bill, it's all in one TV, broadband and landline. Appeals to people's desire for simplicity. TripAdvisor, people are the internet is a fantastic source of information, but how can I cut through it all? I've got so much choice. They can simplify choice making. And even something as simple as M&S meal deals. Meal planning is done for you at a good price. Consumers will continue to seek uncomplicated, user-friendly products and services that simplify their lives. Third one, transparency. Every time we walk into a supermarket or any retail outlet now, we're hit with all of these messages saying half price, 20% fat-free, buy one, get one free, low calorie. And whilst they're attractive and they absolutely succeed in capturing people's attention, I think what's happening now is that consumers are becoming more savvy and they're interrogating those offers and promises. Half price, was it really double that price yesterday before it came on offer? Lower calorie than what? Ultimately, people don't like being duped. They don't want anybody to be pulling the wool over their eyes. Another speaker talked earlier about the kind of growth in buying Irish. There's absolutely a strong desire to buy Irish in current recessionary times. People want to keep the money and the jobs in this country. But what people are now doing is checking the labelling to verify any Irish claims. There was a lovely ad on the radio recently, some of you might have heard, I think it was a Love Irish Food, where a consumer was anxiously trying to buy Irish sausages and came across Kiltafeely Ballybridgewater sausages. But on closer inspection, this turned out not to have Irish heritage at all. Also in terms of transparency, people are reappraising all of their bills. They're looking at their utilities, at their insurance, etc. Am I on the right plan? Am I using it to the max? Am I paying for anything I'm not using? Any kind of hidden charges are really going to irritate consumers now. So I think the growing need for openness and transparency from providers of products and services is absolutely set to continue. Number 4 is community focus, and I think Ray from Musgrave spoke a lot about this earlier, and I could certainly lay hand on heart and say we're seeing it in all of our research now. I think it's perhaps because the national problem is so big, none of us can tackle it single-handedly. We don't know where to start. We'll leave that to the economists and the politicians. But where we can have an impact is at a community level. I may not be able to save all the butchers in the country, but I might be able to save my local butcher. So maybe I'll go and shop with him or her. They can make a difference. They can see the consequences. There's a growing desire to shop local. I think some recent advertising has also tapped into that trend by focusing on the benefits to local people. SuperValu is one of the examples I would use, and Ray kindly showed us some of the advertising laying testament to that, where we're seeing local providers provide to the local supermarket, being bought by the local people and generating more employment as a consequence. It's a win-win kind of story. AIB also, in some of their recent advertising, Big bank, how can we help the little guys on the ground? And I think it's a lovely touch for how a big company can actually help people at local level. And the other example I would give is something like Love Irish Food, which really focuses or taps into the desire for locally sourced products and being seen to support the local economy and community. So I think this sort of trend is definitely likely to continue post-recession. Okay, 2 more. Service with a smile. I wonder, is it something that we forgot in the hubbub of the recession? But I think it is absolutely something that people want nowadays. When we close our doors in the evening and we sit down and we look at the unpaid bills and we look at the school fees that are coming up, etc., it's tough out there. So isn't it nice when we walk out of our home and walk into a local supplier or lift the telephone to somebody to be greeted with a smile? It's the little things that impress also. It's a smile, it's acknowledging your presence, a friendly face, thanking you for your custom. So I would challenge all of you as small businesses to say, well, how can you add a personal touch of some kind to your business offering? And I think it's particularly important for companies with a telephone service. The likes of some of the service organisations shown there, where they do depend a lot on customers having access to their staff over the telephone. We've all been there where we've had the IVR system saying press 1 for this and press 2 for that. It can be extremely frustrating. It's essential to be able to offer people a human voice to have resort to at some stage. Cultural issues are also important. Obviously, for some cost reasons, some of these organisations have had to outsource their customer service operations overseas to India, for example. That's all fine as long as they're given some education in the Irish cultural context, so they can have a bit of a yap about the rain or about the performance of the Irish soccer team last night, or whatever it takes to engage with the customer. I do think that nowadays consumers have developed a growing appreciation for good customer service, and this is set to be a key differentiator between providers in the future. And lastly, digital dependence, which Jonathan made some reference to earlier. A couple of other statistics to share with you. Some recent research we did, the average number of hours spent online is about 20 hours per week. 70% of that was for personal reasons. So this isn't just people sitting in front of their computers in the office. They're spending time for leisure reasons and personal reasons at home. And also the importance of social media. More than 1 in every 4 minutes spent online are spent on social media. We have a preoccupation with Facebook and in more recent years with Twitter, and that's only set to grow. We're spending more time online and on social media. I think businesses have to devote resources to make sure your website's up to date. Is it easy to navigate? One lovely example, DAA car parks. When you go onto their website and you're thinking, how am I going to get through all this and book my car parking space? And they have this one little line up front, 4 clicks and you're done. And straight away I know, thank God, this is going to be easy. A nice simple touch. And also consider how you can maximize positive exposure on the likes of Facebook and Twitter. As Jonathan said earlier, it's not for everybody, but think about how it might be for you. Smartphones. Half of all Irish consumers have a smartphone and it's rising. Data usage, in other words, using the internet on smartphones, is increasing rapidly. Apps are appearing daily. 2 weeks ago when I checked, Apple had 50,000 apps. That's probably up at about 52,000 now already. From research we've done, we know that there's a big appetite for mobile banking, mobile wallet, mobile coupons, geo-based promotions, other stuff that people can do on their smartphones. So think about opportunities that you might have to capitalise on that. Is your business getting smart? So usage of the internet for commerce, particularly through smartphones, shows a sharp upward growth curve. So just in summary, just some quick key takeouts for you. Number 1, embrace the mentality of the frugal consumer. Number 2, keep it simple. Number 3, be open and transparent. That's what people want. Number 4, focus on the community, shopping local, buying local. Number 5, provide service with a smile. And number 6, get smart. Think about how you can embrace the digital developments. Thank you for listening.